How to structure your ad account with Andromeda. We have a lot to cover today, so no intro, let's dive right into it. First things first, what does the algorithm want from you? The algorithm wants just one thing, and that thing is clarity. The more complex and the more campaigns you have in your ad account, the more you confuse its mind. And what's interesting is that in the last 30 days, I've audited at least 40 ad accounts. And out of these 40, some had multiple six figures in ad spend, some had 20,000, 30,000, 40,000. And the funniest thing is that the accounts with the highest ad account had 2 campaigns, 3 campaigns, 5 campaigns, whereas on average, the ones with the smallest ad spend were the ones with the most campaigns, 30 campaigns, 35, 40 campaigns. And obviously, if you ask the person who's running the ads, well, my ad account is different. My ad account works in a different way. I understand theoretically, it makes sense for the algorithm to only have just a few campaigns and make things easier. But no, my ad account is a little different. And that's BS. So the simplest ad account structure you can have consists of 2 campaigns. The first campaign is a testing campaign. The second campaign is a scaling campaign. Now, each one of these campaigns has a different goal. The goal of the testing campaign is for us to learn. The objective of the scaling campaign is for us to earn money. So we want to see the testing campaign almost like a campaign where we want to buy data. We want to buy data on how the market reacts to our ads, to our offer, to our new hook, and so on. And then once we find a winner, we throw it into the CBO campaign, the scaling campaign. Now, as I anticipated, the scaling campaign is a CBO campaign, and the testing campaign is an ABO campaign. The reason why we want the testing campaign to be an ABO is because we want to build some sort of a controlled environment, controlled testing environment, if that makes sense. Let's call it controlled. And this wouldn't be possible in a CBO campaign because in an ABO, the concept and all its variation compete against each other in a way. So you have one ad set per concept, and you make sure that you see the results isolating those variables within the same concept. So you have one ad set per concept. Usually one concept comes with 4 variations total. So you have one ad set and 4 different variations. I've seen accounts where they launch more variations. We usually stick to 4 and we're quite happy with it. Sometimes, depending on what you're selling, you might want to test out more variations, but it's not really needed. Now, regarding the CBO, you have a similar structure where you have one ad set, and within that ad set, you have 20 to 40 winners. These winners are validated. You are sure that these ads convert, and you only allow to the CBO campaigns real winners. And I'll show you in a second how to recognize a real winner. But before that, in what cases it makes sense to create a different CBO? As a general rule, you want to have one ad set per CBO. And again, 20 to 40 winners that you usually refresh once a week, once every 2 weeks, when you add the new ones and you get out the old ones, or turn off the old ones. Now, in what cases it makes sense to have different CBO campaigns? Well, if you have different offers, then it makes sense that you have one CBO per offer. So ideally you have one offer per one CBO. It makes sense to do it when you have different countries. So you want to have one country, especially if there are countries with different languages, per one CBO. Another example is when you want to test out cost caps, bid caps, when you want to play with these settings, then you want to have a different CBO for that. Another option can be audiences. If you're selling something and you have two audiences that are completely different, then it makes sense to have different CBOs per audience. So let's call it one audience, one CBO. Now, regarding the performance goals, which is something that recently a lot of people are talking about, and even when I was at the Meta event in September, they were discussing this as some sort of a relevant topic. Now, what we found is that if you have many SKUs, you want to optimize, or at least you want to start optimizing with value of conversions. Don't have much space here. Value of conversions. This is a new setting. Meta is pushing it quite a lot, and for stores with multiple SKUs, multiple products, it's something that we are seeing very good results with. So I would recommend you test it out if you haven't. Now, if you have less SKUs, so if you don't have many products, then in that case, it makes sense to maximize for number of conversions. So in this case, we recommend number of conversions. One important thing, and this is a caveat for the entire video, all of the things that I'm talking about, these are general rules. If you want to talk about your specific case, if you want to talk about your individual ad account, then we should talk about it in a consulting call. If you're interested, the first one is free. You'll find the link in the description. Now, as we get forward, this is the structure of the ad account. This is what we recommend. And these are different cases where it makes sense to have different campaigns. If this is not the case, then two campaigns are literally as good as it comes. Sometimes it might make sense to have another campaign for promotions, like specific offers, but still, these two campaigns are the most important ones, and this is as simple as it can get. Now, the second topic of this guide, of this video, is rules. Now, once we have a clear structure, then we are launching new concepts every single week, and I need to understand what are the rules according to which you turn off the ads, you keep them running, you upgrade them, or you bump the budget in the testing campaign. So we have a few of these rules. The first one is what we call the stop loss. Stop loss is basically where we stop the bleeding, right? So we have one ad set, as we said before, in 4 different variations. In this case, let's say we have one ad, 2, 3, 4, that's spending most of the budget, and it gets to 2 times the CPA with 0 sales. This is a perfect case of stop loss where we literally kill ad number 3 and we let number 1, 2, 4 keep running. The second rule we use is what we call trim the fat. Now, with trim the fat, you basically have the same situation, but rather than having 0 sales, the ad, let's replicate this, ad set, 1, 2, 3, 4. In this case, ad number 3 spent 2 times the CPA. We had, let's say, 1 sale within the first few days. We let it run, and after a few days, we look at the actual results, and if the CAC is higher than the target CPA, then it's time to kill it. As simple as that. Now, just to clarify the difference, if we have 0 sales, we kill it within the first 2 to 3 days, depending on what is our target CPA. If we do get sales, we let it run a little longer, even if it's not according to our target CPA, but we did get some sales, so there's something good, hopefully. If that's the case, we let it run for a little longer, but if after 2 more days, 3 more days, the CAC is still higher than the CPA, then we kill the ad. If we kill 2 ads of the same ad set, then we turn off the entire ad set. This is how we look at it. Now, in terms of the upgrade, this would be another rule. Let's just make this a little smaller. Regarding the upgrade, this is a good rule, so we make it in green. Regarding the upgrade, there are a few things that I would like to mention. The first one is that we usually look at $900 in ad spend and 10 conversions minimum. Conversions minimum. Obviously, these numbers may vary based on the AOV, but if the requirements are met, so if we have $900 in ad spend and 10 conversions minimum, and the ROAS and CPA are within the target, then we duplicate this winning ad into the scaling CBO. So duplicate. Now, in the last video, I'm not sure if you watched it, but if you haven't, I would highly recommend you watch it. I'll just make sure it pops up here. I got a comment that asked, do you guys use the same ID or you simply duplicate the ad? Now, what is the difference? If you have the same ID and you use the same ID, then it's going to be the same ad. If you duplicate it, the ad copy will have a different ID. Now, as an agency, we usually do the duplication. Depending on very specific situation, it might make sense to test out both. But now, especially with Andromeda, it will still recognize that it's the same ad. So test out both options, see whatever you like more. We prefer duplicating, but would still recommend you test out for yourself. And obviously, if you are doing that, make sure that you don't change the ad settings, because in that case, then it would become a new ad. Now, the second good rule is this is not the right one. It's the budget bump. Regarding the budget bump, when you launch a new ad set in the ABO campaign, you have 2 to 3 days of daily budget. And then based on results, if the ad is running well, it's getting sales, ROAS and CPA are on target, you want to bump the budget by 20%. You can do the 20% every day or every other day. So let's make it every day or every other day. If you want to be very aggressive, you can also do the 20% multiple times a day. If you go a little more aggressive, sometimes I see people bump it by 50%, that might reset the learning phase. So that's something that we don't recommend, and we would just stick to the 20% multiple times a day. One thing that's very important when it comes to bumping the budget within the testing campaign is that you want to keep an eye on the budget ratio of your ad account. What do I mean by that? What usually happens is that the more you bump the budget of your testing campaign, the more you're going to end up spending in testing. I mean that at the end of the month, you want to make sure that testing versus scaling have reasonable ratios, right? Usually, this obviously depends on ad spend, depends on several variables, but let's say this is 20% and this is 80%. Obviously, the more you scale, the lower is going to be the testing budget and the more it's going to be the scaling budget. But what I see happens, especially with new media buyers or when the owner is also the person running the ads, is that they scale within the testing campaign. So they scale within the ABO, but then they don't keep track of that specific ad as a scaled one, not as a testing one. And the way you fix this problem is very simple. You just check out the naming convention of that specific ad and you edit it by adding scale at the very beginning of the name. And that's it. Then at the end of the month, you will analyze your ads and you will see which ads were part of the testing campaign and which ads were part of the scaling campaign. So you know what is the budget. If you're interested in how we manage our naming convention, which is basically the most important part when it comes to ads analysis, both for the creative aspect, but also for the actual learnings in general, then let me know in the comment section and I might be shooting a video on the topic soon. This is pretty much it. Now, one more thing that recently changed thanks to the Andromeda update is that cost caps and bid caps are back. And they're back stronger than ever. I'm saying that they're back because before Andromeda, we basically almost forgot about cost caps and bid caps unless it was Q4, unless it was a specific time of the year. We were not using cost caps and bid caps. Some clients were, but like not all of them. Now I would highly recommend you test them out, obviously in a different CBO, and you test out both and you see which one works best for your case specifically. Now, if you want to start, then I would recommend, especially for the cost cap, look at your target CPA and multiply it by 1.25 or 1.50. And the reason why you want to do that is because if you start too low, then you put your learning phase at risk and this messes up the results of the entire campaign. Whereas if you start a little higher, then you can still lower, but you see pretty much if it spends based on how the competition is organizing their campaign. Now, just to give you an example, let's say your target CPA is $50, 1.25, that's like you're gonna put a cost cap of 72.5 or 75 in case of the 1.5. As simple as that. Again, you want to start a little higher and then see what happens. Ideally, get it lower. But if you start too low, then it messes up the learning phase and it's not ideal for a scaling campaign. As I said before, again, this is just a different campaign. You use the same scaling ads, but you do it in a different CBO. Now, this is the structure of how we are working on our ad accounts. One thing that I want to make very clear before we wrap up the video. Everybody who's creating content right now is squeezing and milking the word Andromeda. And if you're on the other side of the camera, if you're the person, not on the camera, if you're on the other side of the screen watching these videos, most of these people that create content literally make money on your confusion. So what I wanted to do with this video is give you clarity. In whatever you hear out there, and I know for a fact that you hear contrasting opinions from the same speakers or the same writers, the same authors. It's just not ideal. So most people are trying to overcomplicate things when it comes to Andromeda, and I would highly recommend you watch my last video and this one And both videos keep things incredibly simple. And this is what works. I mean, you don't need to do anything more complicated than this to make it work. So if you are happy with everything we talked about, then this validates what you're already doing. I'm very happy for you. If you want to dive a little deeper and make sure you understand how to implement everything for your own ad account, or if you're already doing this, but you're still not seeing results, you want to understand what are your bottlenecks, in the description, you'll find a link to book a consulting call with us. This is with our team. It's either with me or somebody from my team, another advertising veteran. And we are gonna audit your ad account, see what are the bottlenecks and share them with you along with a roadmap on how to fix it. You can walk away with the roadmap, implement it yourself, or get our help to implement everything. This call is absolutely free if you're spending at least $30,000 a month on ads. So if you're spending at least that amount, it's just a no-brainer. So head over to the description, click the link, book a consulting call, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.